Assam is inhabited by many ethnic communities. The Missings, or the Miris of Assam, are the second largest tribe in Assam with a population of over 7 lakhs. They are originally a hill tribe believed to belong to the Tibeto-Burmese group. They took the riverine route to come to the plains of Assam in the early 13th century. These missing people, who are also called river people, settled on the banks of the river Brahmaputra and its tributaries, as they found the land very fertile. They had plentiful paddy production despite the region being frequently affected by large-scale flooding.
Ngolok missing supaglo pahin okalok ko toktung lupila mang akaragom ngolo Tibet Burma lokka ngolo gudungumdung to tokdodong ngolo aneru ko togla siangana ko tokdong pahar adiem durkola gela supag deluane yang ngolo bornoy abung karang karalo ngolo missing dungabdung argesinga aidagamna supak pehi ngolo anak karang ruilo dung ademu pengolo kapadung rago kopang nam konggela hin supang ngolo argesing inam laganga ainam laganga ila dubom sunam laganga supak pengolo missing kedare dung aneru dulang ngolo hupak missing karao ko mola ase pumia se gesadak ngolo karao ko mola dudung amdung amdak gome ngolo asidog lagang karao kum de momang sao kum demna ngolo jonto janwar mane jibo jonto ngolo some situm tabu tarum lagang ngolo karao ko moto talang rum ngoko kegrum ngoko odog raja la donga mangko ade ngolo ke abang no kadung ngolo ke mythological kadung ade ngolo hupak pin bisinga bonggap la dung ada bonggap tula dupai na ai ko pun ke dalam segla hupak sin Arunachal gedung so aing ke so orang kebang milang ngolo supak dong je ngolo ai ke gumunam kinchunam laganga ngolo misin ke dara supak sin kabang bala gedung.
Floods in Assam have been an unavoidable reality since ages. Frequent floods in the area affect the agricultural production and other economic activities to a large extent. It is seen that even today, much of Assam's flood management approach is focused on building embankments. These embankments are often breached either due to high intensity of floods or due to low quality of construction. Adding to the woes, the Brahmaputra river system carries a high volume of sediments which has resulted in the rise of the riverbed. As a consequence, low carrying capacity of river course leads to frequent overtopping of water. Traditional ways of flood management, living with floods, shifting focus to community preparedness, and building resilience along with applying modern technologies of flood and river management can mitigate the situation to a large extent. With thoughtless human interventions, erratic and heavy rainfall for shorter duration, and disappearance of natural buffers like forests, adaptation has become much harder and costlier than before. Traditional knowledge systems and constant innovation in lifestyle has enabled the missing community to adapt to floods till date. Bamboo has been the main construction material for building of houses in Assam since time immemorial. It is endemic to the region and many varieties are available. However, with change of time, instead of bamboo pillars, which are less durable in the water currents, concrete pillars are being used to construct houses on bamboo platforms. Earlier, people could easily unbolt the bamboo structures, load on a country boat and keep them on embankments or shelter camps on high areas and reconstruct them once the flood was over. Nowadays, however, some missing people have started constructing Assam-type houses and buildings of concrete to keep pace with the modern world. They seem to be fast losing interest in houses made of bamboos in the vulnerable areas. The missing tribe of Assam is an exceptional tribe with huge traditional ecological knowledge, and by their wisdom have been able to capture the attention of the global village. They consider most of nature to be infused with supernatural power. They maintain their own distinctive socio-cultural system and tribal traditional belief and customs which distinguish them as a separate ethnic group.
আমি মিচিং সকল অসমৰ এটা বিশেষ জনগোষ্ঠী য'ত আমাৰ নিজস্ব ধ্যান ধাৰণা আমি পৰিচালিত হওঁ আমি প্ৰকৃতিক কেৱল পূজাই নকৰোঁ আৰু বিশ্বাস কৰোঁ প্ৰকৃতি আমাক সৃষ্টি কৰিব পাৰে ধ্বংস কৰিব পাৰে আৰু সেই আমাৰ নিজস্ব বিচাৰধাৰাৰ কাৰণে আমি অন্য জনগোষ্ঠীতকৈ ভিন্ন আৰু আজিৰ তাৰিখত আমাৰ পৰম্পৰাগত ৰীতি নীতি ধ্যান ধাৰণা সেইখিনি আলমত বিশ্বৰ বেলেগ জনগোষ্ঠী হৈ আমাক ভিন্ন এটা নৃগোষ্ঠী হিচাপে আমাক চিনাক্তকৰণ কৰে
The Missings, with over centuries of coexistence with floods, have developed innovative, adaptive methods to deal with floods. The Missings do not focus on fighting the floods. Instead, the community lays focus on preparedness, which gets manifested in the living style of this community, starting from housing architecture to paddy cultivation to how the village is organized. They have traditionally used their indigenous knowledge in designing their houses, granaries, or in taking care of the cattle or domestic animals. They build their houses mainly with the help of timber, bamboo, reed, and thatch. The houses on stilts are normally chest high, that is about 5 to 6 feet above the ground. A typical house is sometimes as much as 30 to 40 meters in length and about 20 feet in breadth. The roof is thatched and the walls and doors are made of bamboo. This typical missing house is called Changghar or Kareokum. There are two main doors in the house, one in front and the other at the back of the house, with one or two outlets in the sides. The house on stilts is a big hall with a central kitchen for a large joint family. The floor of the missing house is made with bamboo sticks, maintaining a certain gap between the two sticks so that airflow can be allowed through the floor also. The lower part of the house is used to provide shelter to pet animals, poultry, etc. that every household rears. Floors of some houses are raised or elevated and handloom activities are carried out under those elevated bamboo floors. Apart from the main house, there is a traditional granary placed on a raised platform as it is believed that elephants do not attack houses on stilts. As such, the granaries are also protected from moisture, insects, rodents and floods. In a house, all essential household equipment and articles are kept in a special order. Changhars are immensely resilient during floods and earthquakes. As they are built on raised platforms, flood waters cannot easily engulf them or destroy their houses or belongings. The houses are also easy to construct, and each year elevation levels of the houses can be changed depending upon the flood levels of the previous year. Most missing houses also keep a small country boat for use during floods. They also keep rafts made of the trunk of banana trees or plantain. This boat or raft is kept so as to escape from their changhars in case of the flood water exceeds the limit of the raised platforms on which their houses are made. The changhars are also seen to withstand big earthquakes as they are made of bamboo and are of very light weight. Due to the lightweight and favorable elastic properties of bamboo, structures made from it very easily resist earthquakes. A typical missing house has certain key layers from the floor to the roof, with each layer serving a unique purpose. The floor is called the tasit. Right above the floor is the kira or choka. Above it is the fireplace called meram. Above the meram are two shelves constructed of bamboo called perab and rabong. Both the layers are often hung from the ceiling by tying the four corners with jute or cane ropes. Because perab is right above the fireplace, it is generally used to smoke meat and fish, which can be saved for future use. Above the perab is rabong, where pots filled with rice beer, which is filtered as per need, is kept. And above the rabong, at the ceiling level, another layer called kumbang is present. The attic space between the kumbang and the roof is where dry vegetables like potatoes, pumpkins, garlic, onions, etc. harvested from the kitchen gardens and fields are kept for use during the floods. As these layers are above the fireplace, the smoke keeps these items free from bacteria and fungus, while the thatched roof provides the cooling effect. Another traditional feature that helps the Missings in collectively coping with floods is the presence of tungeng, the front porch in the house, which is often quite large. In situations when houses with lower elevation get inundated, the residents often take refuge in tungengs. A typical Missing village generally has certain key areas in the vicinity, like a river or a pond that provides fish, a forest or chapori, which serves as a source for fruits, wood, firewood, herbs, etc., and a grazing land for the livestock or cattle to feed on. The existence of these areas enabled the Missing community to have a self-sufficient life in earlier times. Traditional knowledge systems and constant innovation in lifestyle has enabled the Missing community to adapt to floods. The community house is called Murong Okum, a place where most of the village-level rituals take place. The Murong Okum is used for celebrating the festivals of missing people, such as Ali Ai Ligang, which is the most cherished festival of the missing people in Assam. It is celebrated during post-harvest period, falling on the first Wednesday of the Assamese Fagun month every year. The missing people store food and save money for bad times and try to keep themselves informed about flood situations and warnings as preparatory measures, sometimes using their folk beliefs as observational experiences.
Missing জনগোষ্ঠীয় লোকসকল নদীৰ কিনাৰে কিনাৰে বাস কৰে। সেই কাৰণে তেওঁলোকে চাংঘৰ বনাই থাকে। চাংঘৰত থকা মেইন উদ্দেশ্যটো হ'ল হেতৰ মুখ্য উদ্দেশ্যটো যে বানপানীৰ সময়ত তেওঁলোকে একো অনিষ্ট নোহোৱাকে এই সময়খিনি পাৰ কৰিব পাৰে। আৰু সেইটো বানপানী আহিব বুলি কেনেকৈ গম পায়, যেতিয়া বানপানী আহে তেতিয়া গৰু ছাগলীবিলাকে এটা আৱাজ সাউণ্ড উলিয়ায়, মানে এটা আৱাজ উলিয়ায়, সেই আৱাজটোৰ পৰা গম পায়। আৰু মাটিত কি কৰে, মাটিৰ সেই পোক ফৰিঙতি পৰুৱাবিলাকে মাটিৰ তলৰ পৰা ওপৰলৈ ওলাই আহে। ওলাই আহোঁতে তেওঁলোকে মানে এটা গম পায় যে এতিয়া বানপানী ছিজন আহিছে, এতিয়া বানপানী আহিব। আৰু সেই বানপানী আহিব বুলি সেই মানুহবিলাক পুৰা গাঁৱৰ ৰাইজবিলাক সজাগ হৈ যায়।
It used to be a common practice for the missing people to leave their old homes and settle in new areas when their old villages were engulfed by the river or became too vulnerable to erosion. Moving the whole village or a certain number of families to safer places worked well as an adaptation strategy in the past because there was no dearth of land where new villages and colonies could be established. At present, there is not enough vacant land in which large number of people can settle. So, as a strategy, it has become less viable. However, community preparedness and building resilience is something to be learnt from missing people. Indigenous knowledge in designing their houses and granaries should be encouraged with more scientific knowledge of processed bamboo as a construction material. There is a rich source of traditional knowledge among the rural people, particularly the tribal communities in this region. What we need to do is see and understand the scientific basis of this indigenous knowledge and promote this knowledge for a sustainable life. The role of science is to help mankind meet the various demands for exploiting natural resources in the best possible way without adversely affecting the environment. In most societies, there exists a rich body of knowledge based on how to meet the demands of that particular society, but quite often these are ignored. We need to look at indigenous science and technology, particularly when an existing body of knowledge is available. Perhaps it is better to develop it instead of disregarding it in the name of scientific progress. If indigenous knowledge systems are disappearing, it is primarily because of the pressures of modernization and cultural homogenization that at times threaten the lifestyles, practices, and cultures of tribal populations, small agricultural producers, and indigenous people. The ways in which indigenous people experience and understand their context is different from the scientific world. However, methodically traditional wisdom needs to be given right direction to sustain natural disasters, as the success rate in dealing with disasters is potentially high. Indigenous knowledge of designing missing houses, granaries, should be encouraged with more scientific inputs of processed bamboo as a construction material. Assam has to shift its focus to community preparedness and building resilience to mitigate floods. The other flood-affected states need to emulate these practices, and the experience and preparedness of the missing community could definitely provide a few lessons on preparedness and living with floods. The use of bamboo as a construction material is emerging in a big way. We need to create dynamic, eco-friendly structures and build the capacities of local people to make meaningful use of the sustainable technologies for rural development. The missing Changghar can be integrated into the school curriculum when we mention different types of houses as an example of sustainable and flood-proof architecture. The Changhars can be integrated as preparedness technique in disaster-prone areas. The case of the missing community is a perfect example of right attitude, that is, living in harmony with nature, being prepared for disasters, and not trying to change what is happening. This is what missings practice. It is also an example of right values, that is, trying to adapt or build life around floods by respecting every element of the ecosystem is the value one needs to imbibe from the missings. And it is also an example of coping skills. The missings do not focus on fighting the floods. Instead, the focus is on preparedness by suitably designing houses and granaries, or in taking care of the cattle or domestic animals.